Welcome to the podcast that questions everything, from conspiracies to philosophy, from science to religion. We will be looking at the construct of the illusion, and as always, we will question everything. Hello and welcome to another episode of Everything's an Illusion, a podcast where we question every motherfucking thing. I'm your host Rob Wallace, and I'm joined this evening, by the bearded master of sci-fi, Mr. Greg Andrew.
Hello, people of podcast land. I know you were hoping for the guy from Blink 182 to be in this podcast this month, but no, it is I. I have returned.
Do you have a beard?
I do have a beard, yes.
There we go. Well, but my beard wasn't good enough for the new Robert the Bruce movie. But
I get an email from them the other week asking me to come and be in their film, and I says, I'm sorry, I don't have 14 days they were asking for me to come and be a fighter person.
It's insane.
Yeah, we've ran it.
You Netflix a fighter person?
That is true. Is there a cowardly Scots guy up the back going, I'll be there in a minute?
That's just looking for the masses.
Yep.
But okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this evening's podcast is brought to you by Smartphone Media Production, a fantastic book on marketing and all that good stuff, Energetic Mind, t-shirts, and Hingway Films. Hingway Films is the producer of absolutely fantastic, top-notch short films made by the bearded master of sci-fi, Mr. Greg Andrews. So check out his stuff on facebook.com/Hingway Films. Is that right?
That's the very one, yes.
New film coming soon?
Depending on how fast I edit it, yes, that's correct.
So the first... Yes,
it is coming very soon.
So the first a fantastic topic for tonight's podcast is pyramids. And one pyramid specifically is the Great Pyramid, or Khufu's Pyramid, or it's got a whole host of different names, but the main thing is, after a few years of shutting it down and scanning and doing all the fancy new tech with teams from Japan and the UK and the USA and obviously Egypt, they have discovered two new chambers.
Yes.
And one of them is the same size or of similar size as the King's Chamber, which is pretty fucking huge when you think about it. You know what I mean? The thing's 5,000 plus years old if you go by traditional dating, etc.
Yep.
And there's a chamber which is absolutely huge. There's another smaller chamber that they found that looks like an access corridor, or it's about 30 metres long and getting big enough for a man to get in and out. It's pretty amazing, eh?
Well, I think the best thing about it, they found these two voids, a large void and a smaller void, and they've named them Big Void and Small Void. So that's the great thing about it. Yeah, it's pretty cool when you think about how, for you say, for like 3,000 years, 4,000 years possibly, people have been exploring that whole area, get in these shafts, get into the chamber. I mean, obviously it was robbed thousands of years ago at some point, and then archaeologists have been there excavating and taking all this stuff, and then it's taken this amount of time to find these different areas. It's just, what are these areas for? That's the big question, since we barely know what the areas that are already there for. There's like the King's Chamber, there's the Queen's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, and then there's all these different wee compartments, and they've only got ideas of what these things are for. So what are these? What are the archaeologists theorising these chambers are for?
I don't think they actually, the stuff that I watched, they were the kind of people that done the theorising, because when you the Great Pyramid for me is obviously all the kind of things which your classical archaeologists don't sort of acknowledge the fact that the numbers in it proportionally the same size as the Earth. The various things like pi and phi and other mathematical constants are woven into the lengths when you take it in proportion with the size of the Earth and the size of the Earth's diameter and circumference. And then there was a YouTube channel I watched recently. I found something like Ancient Architects, something like that. I'll put the link up on the show notes on the page. And the guy, he goes through the historical facts, the papers, the books, the kind of academic kind of notes, and the whole reason that the Great Pyramid is attributed to Khufu is because 2 bits of graffiti, I think it's in the Queen's or the King's chamber, and it's quite obviously noted as graffiti. Academically, it is graffiti and noted as graffiti, and that's the attributing factor, that it was made by Khufu. And then the other bit that compounds that and gives it credence is a work note for limestone for the cladding. So they're the 2 things in history which date and put the building of the Great Pyramid in Khufu's time. Now they 2 things, one of them, it's just the cladding, it's not actually the pyramid, so it could be the last part, and then some graffiti. So it doesn't really, when you look at other things in Egypt's history, they're well documented within that time period. There's loads of documentation, there's loads of references, there's none of that. Again, there's just these 2 kind of almost out of sorts bits of info, but that's the only info they have on the Great Pyramid, if you like, about its potential builders.
I think it's also interesting how they found these voids with this muon technologies, is that what it is? These cool scanner things that
what's the background?
It's like particles and air particles and stuff like that. So they kind of
a cosmic X-ray kind of.
They measure the kind of density and stuff, and if there's holes, they can kind of find. They measure it for different angles and all that. So it's very, very complicated ways of measuring through.
I thought it was interesting that it had, I think it was 3 teams, maybe 4 teams, and they're all using similar technologies and similar tech, but they were working completely independently, and they all come up with the same.
They all found the same space.
So it's definitely verified that there is these new cavities. Whether they can get the authority to can drill them or access them, but I still, when you go into the whole idea of saying the Great Pyramid was a tomb, then you will prove that it's a tomb. When you go into it thinking, maybe it wasn't a tomb, it could be something else, and you look at it, I just can't get over the fact that I am almost 100% sure that if you were to give a modern day top of the food chain architect, let's say Sir Norman Foster, and give them unlimited funds and say build a replica of Khufu's pyramid the same size, everything, again to scale, here's unlimited budget, go for it, that even if they could achieve it, it wouldn't be done in 38 years or whatever it was supposed to be. You know, from start to finish, because at the end of the day, Khufu never started planning his pyramid before he was born. You know what I mean? It's potentially his tomb, so when do you start planning your tomb? Maybe when he was hitting adolescence. But it's not something that Again, and that's the other thing. It was built within his reign, but for it to be even conceivable, it has to be built from the day he was born. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thinking about how to put it together.
Aye, because if he died in, just say he was 40, if he died in his 40s, and they say it take about 40 years, then it wasn't actually designed by him. It was built for him by some genius.
Yeah. I think what's quite interesting is the way the data has come back for the scans is, at the moment these seem to be kind of irregular spaces. You know, that the chambers, the Grand Chamber, the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber are very kind of how you'd expect, how would you imagine a kind of burial chamber to be, like a square space, like 4 walls, place for the tomb. With these, so you have this idea that everything within this pyramid has been put perfectly. And this kind of just gives me a go with the big void, especially with the small void. I think that's quite interesting. Maybe it's just a bit like, oh, I can't be arsed filling that bit in. Just leave it, Jim. You sure? Nobody will notice. You know, when they might have just like missed a spot, built over a wee spot where they were sitting eating their sandwiches and that was their wee play den. You know what I mean? Oh, just sit here, have your sandwiches, hide for the guy with the whip. Oh, yum yum yum. And then they just went over it. You know what I mean? That could be.
There was a great documentary I watched, and it was something like alternative kind of theories or ideas and how they built the pyramid. So
yeah.
Again, it started with the classic. There was 100,000 slaves. They built these huge mud ramps and dragged shit up. And I said, right, well, so if we say that that's no the way, how else could it have been done? And the one that sort of triumphed as the most plausible was essentially very similar, but the debris all went in the inside.
Yeah, they kind of built it for the inside out.
And sort of filled it like like the pyramids that used to get years ago, and it had mint fondue in the middle. So instead of mint fondue, it was rubble.
Yeah.
And in that case, what the documentary he concluded was, as much as this is most plausible, it also throws up loads of engineering problems with things like, again, how they positioned the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And he explained some of the things, like the King's Chamber has that kind of tiered roof system. It's like 5 or 6 tiers.
Yeah.
And that's to hold the weight. It's can almost dissipates the weight like an arch, kind of the way they made arches back in the day.
I think they still make arches this very day, Rob.
Aye, but you know what I mean, back in the day when they never had the technology to just make a big span in one.
Yeah.
They put a stone, another stone, and kept on going. And that last stone, you would create the arch, and without it. So it was almost the same sort of principle. To keep to dissipate the weight through the rest of the shape. But I still, at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to explore. I think it's fantastic that they have been using this modern technology to explore the Great Pyramid, but I don't think that they'll actually drill into these things.
Yeah, it's very hard to get permission to move stones, and especially in the pyramids with the Egyptian antiquities authorities. They're very kind of like, no. So I mean, there's like the actual, what's it called? Like the shafts that come out of it. Remember they put a robot up, a couple of them, and just to get permission to put the robot up the shaft. Like it wasn't drilling, it wasn't breaking anything, it was just to get it up the shaft was just a lot of paperwork and stuff, and rightly so. I mean, the pyramids are, you know, very culturally significant to the world, you know. And especially I have been to the pyramids, Rob, if you would indulge me for a moment and just tell you about the pyramids as a person who's touched them.
Oofed, oofed.
They are very big. And Cairo's a shithole, so there we go.
Well, that's it. That, like, as somebody who, they say you've been to the pyramids, and I've never been to the pyramids, but I've been to a few megalithic sites in the UK and in, again, various sites throughout South America. And one of the things that got me, like, say, Saxo woman in Peru, was the sheer size of the building blocks. You know, it was like, supposedly there was a wee tour guide at Saxo Women explaining to me that they carved these blocks with a bit of meteorite and basically just hammered them into shape with like a hand-pound hammer kind of thing. I was like, get yourself the fuck. No, I mean, this thing is absolutely huge, 75 ton plus block, you know.
At which point Rob was thrown off the tour.
But it's crazy to think that we as a human biological machine running software can design mobile phones and potentially put man in the moon and can create some of the most amazing kind of craziness, but yet our ancestors, we attribute them as just being dumb. But yet the evidence suggests otherwise, you know. I mean, a pyramid that is, I'm guessing, like, just looking for pictures, it's pretty goddamn fucking huge, but I'm guessing when you actually stand in there, you're just like, what the fuck, this thing is even bigger than I even was thinking about comprehending.
Yeah. I always thought when I got to Egypt, I'll run up the pyramid.
Like a dragon.
I went up about 2 steps and I was like, "Aye, that'll do. Take my picture here." It's really hard. I've seen a couple of people on YouTube doing it, and I think you get in quite a bit of trouble if you do it as well. But they are big.
And the young Russian kids don't give a fuck.
They young crazy Russians. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what developments. I think the only kind of weird thing, we found these big voids, and it could be a new chapter in the pyramids, our understanding of the pyramids, but the pace at which these the Egyptologist community moves isn't exactly super fast, so it'll take a few years to get permissions to drill holes or, you know, send some sort of robot into these voids. They might never get the permission, we might never find out what the voids are for.
I don't think we will, but I'm sure they'll come up with some sort of crazy idea of what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, pyramids done, and on the theme of crazy...
I'm sure we'll come back to pyramids
and
at some point.
Say it again?
I'm sure we'll come back to the pyramids at some point, as we always do.
Oh, I said there is, for the folk listening, there's an entire podcast on pyramids. I'll put that in the show notes. Okay, let's move to the crazy Russians. Sorry. And if they're listening, hello Russians, you're not crazy. Please don't. Oh no, I don't mean like crazy Russians. I just mean crazy Russians. So the Facebook have come out and stated that the amount of money that the various, what they called as kind of like propaganda Russian news agencies or state agencies creating propaganda for the American election was something like 0.5% of the budget when you take in total between them and then what Trump and Hillary spent. So basically it's insignificant what they spent in comparison to what Trump and Hillary spent. So obviously the argument is, but what they spent was enough to tip the scale in one direction or the other, because it was quite tight. But that's a bit of a poor thing, because there's other people that had cash that paid for adverts for either Hillary or Trump that weren't the Russians. It seems to be, it's like, oh, we need we need some form of blame at the minute to get into, I don't know, another Cold War or another arms race or another something.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is we grew up in that last era of the Cold War. There was those 80s before the fall of the Berlin Wall and the crumble of the Soviet bloc, and it was the idea that East and West were fighting each other, but there was no battlefield. The battlefield was like James Bond spies and covert operations, and you know, secret handshakes, and you know, the way James Bond would stop the Russians and the living daylights and all that stuff, and secret pipelines. And now it just seems like when it says on Facebook, do you want to promote this ad for $15, the Russians just clicked yes. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I think it's like, really, is that all they had to do? They just had to create their ad and then run it, and Facebook were like, fine. I think it was one of the senators was saying, so just out of curiosity, with all the data you collect, because we know Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all the data we give them, they collect, put it in a file and sell it to people, so that the other people can sell you shit and take your money and they make money. That's how the world works. But the thing was, all these ads were getting paid by in rubles. And they were just basically going, oh, thanks very much for your rubles. No, none of the big brains were like, if they're paying in rubles, are they for Russia?
But that's the thing.
They didn't even convert it to dollars or Bitcoin or something like that, just to put that kind of veil of secrecy on it. They basically just went into Facebook ads, made hundreds of Facebook ads for whatever political gain or political motive they had, and then paid for it in rubles. And Facebook just went, well, this abides with all their standards. Correct, click, and then they took the money and put it in a bank.
Well, that's that kind of that isn't buying an election. That's doing what everybody else does in an election. You know,
it's almost as if
at the end of the day, you want an election to be, as a voter and as a non-voter, even as a commentator, and you want somebody that you're in favour of to become the person that kind of gets the best outcome.
Yeah.
So if you've got some spare cash, why not kind of attempt to boost your preferred choice?
Yeah.
That's all they done.
The idea that this thing, it's gone into these hearings, and it's all about how it's affected the election, and they're using rigging a lot and all that terminology. Whereas if you take a wee step back and just look at it as a kind of objective, kind of crazy man, I could just say Russia were just fucking about, you know, just being dicks. Just go, Vladimir, on you go. Do one of the Facebook ads, it'll be fucking hilarious. And then Vladimir's like, no, I'm not going to. Aye, on you go, Vladimir. Oh, okay, my friend, my comrade friend, I will do a Facebook ad. By the way, there's not a Russian in this room. That was me doing an impression of a Russian. And it just, I mean, it's crazy. And it's because America right now is this kind of crazy tinderbox where, you know, these things have to be sorted out. It's just a case of, and it's like, well, if Facebook don't do it, we'll have to crack down on Facebook. And then that leads into the whole kind of idea, well, is that cracking down on free speech or free movement? It's like, these ideas, they're all capitalist societies. Just, is it all a facade just to take up time of people? Yeah, but yeah, it might just be the best trolling ever. A whole country trolling, and not even being like subtle about it. If they did pay in rubles, and all the IP addresses that were making these ads for Trump or whatever were for Russia, and Facebook were basically just going, nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Your rubles are as good as my dollars. I'll take them.
Well, there's the classic kind of. It's one of the. I think it was John McAfee, founder of McAfee, and also a presidential nominee. He had stated, when it comes to hacking, if the footprint is usually, if it's that obvious, i.e. It's Russians, it's Russian IPs, it's this, it's that, it generally means it wasn't them, because if you've got the skill to hack into a government or a high level system, you're not going to leave the cookie trail saying my name is this is.
Then it becomes, well, who's doing that? Who's buying the
adverts in ripples?
So if it's not the Russians, then it's going to be somebody within America pretending to be the Russians. That's where it becomes a bit kind of James Bondy, CIA, Trump campaign. I mean, if they were sharing the content with the Russians first and getting them to put the content out, that could be where people were going to get in trouble.
I heard a good quote about conspiracies the other day, and it was something along the lines of the scary thing is the world does not actually run by people that have a grip on things. It was something along the lines of, okay, when you actually look into it and go beyond the conspiracies, you realise that the world's actually a lot worse, because there isn't a driver, you know what I mean, on the cart. The cart is running wild, it's loose, it's out of control, and conspiracy kind of ideas gives the comfort that there's a kind of
there's an order to it.
Aye, there's somebody in the back pulling the chains, directing the chaos. And what they were saying was actually there's more evidence to show that there is no there wasn't any plan to the Russian this or the kind of Council of 300 or Illuminati or any of this kind of stuff. It's just crazy chaos bouncing off each other.
Yeah, which is the way it should be. You know what I mean? That's really we're animals. We live in an animal kingdom. The world should be chaos.
That is chaos.
Fucking dark, was it? Oh. But yeah, right, so I don't know. Will we move on?
Oh no, what were you going to say there? I was just I was going to suggest move on to that.
Okay, well, we can move on then. I think the Russians are buying you. I think the Russians have bought this. Will be sponsored by Vladimir Vodka or something like that, coming into this fucking podcast. They're like, aye, they've got to him. It's just me, sane voice. Well, talking of conspiracies, will we move on then?
New T-shirt, Energetic Mind is a big sickle and star.
I quite like the great alien one from Energetic Mind. If you're going to,
we seem to be delayed talking over each other. It's kind of strange.
I think there's been a wee glitch in the matrix here. I'm not going to say it's Russia, but it might be Russia.
So. The Russians have just released the new JFK files.
They have.
And in there we found out that it was the Russians.
Again, so we're going to talk about the release of the JFK files. As avid listeners will know, we've done a brilliant podcast about the JFK assassination. A couple of my theories are in that. For me, that podcast just scratched the surface of stuff to go about.
Whet the appetite.
Whet the appetite. So we all come back with a JFK part 2, I think, because I think there's still a lot of stuff. But they did release the new files. Well, they're not new files. They're files for years ago. They've just released them. These were promised back in '92. George Bush, the first one, head of the CIA. Possibly in Dallas at the time. That's got nothing to do with it. He put another 25 years on these secret files. Trump gave the go ahead to release some of them, not all of them, and there was redactions in some of the pieces that were let out. The ones that weren't let out were kept behind because they would affect national security. How that figures more than 50 years after the fact, There you go. So, but not to go all the way back into the JFK thing, there was a couple of points that have come up on some stuff that I found quite interesting. That kind of, what's always quite nice to do with JFK is to be devil's advocate, play the role of Joe Normal who doesn't know anything about it, who takes on board the official story that was given out. Lee Harvey Oswald, 24-year-old, ex-Marine, with links to Russia, shot the president. 2 bullets, 3 shots, 1 missed, 2 bullets, the last shot being a headshot. So that's the Warren Commission's kind of version of it. So these new papers come out, could bring up some interesting facts. So in there's a report after the assassination. There's a report of a man from New Orleans who came forward and said 10 days before the assassination he overheard a conversation in a bar about an assassination attempt on the president, how it would possibly happen in the next 3 weeks. He waited after the session to report that. Again, maybe just hearsay, maybe the guy's just made up for to be part of the JFK thing. So this was 1963, whatever. But again, if that is true, and the people in this bar in New Orleans, where Lee Harvey Oswald used to live and had some connections there, then if Lee Harvey Oswald did have these connections and these people knew about it, that disproves the official theory, because that would be a conspiracy. And they say there's no conspiracy. So that's one point. There is a document that states that the Cambridge News, a British newspaper, got a tip-off 25 minutes before the assassination happened that something big was happening in America and they should phone the embassy soon to find out details for the news story. Now again, the Cambridge News isn't exactly the biggest paper in Britain, so it's very strange that they were phoned, but being a paper, they obviously take notes, they obviously take records of the calls they get in for stories. Seemed a bit strange at the time, reported it. Again, probably wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald if he was preparing to be in a sniper's nest all by himself. So if somebody had prior knowledge that was going to happen, again, that would say conspiracy and more than one person knew. Again, the official story was out the window. There was a memo from G. Edgar Hoover, which brought up an internal FBI memo, I'm sure, and brought up his concerns about how they must convince the nation that Lee Harvey Oswald was the assassin and acted alone. That could be him just thinking, right, this is what's happened, we need to make sure we get the story out. Or if he's having doubts about that story, what other information did he know at that time? And again, if he knew other things that were happening, would therefore say conspiracy and the official story is not right. Again, there's other redactions, there's possible testimony in there that gets cut off. There's a passage, I'm sure, there's like a question and answer, and they're asking an ex-CIA agent if Lee Harvey Oswald had any connections to the CIA agency or another agency, and then for some reason that memo's kind of stopped and the answer is never given. So these are just 3 or 4 things that have come out in these early stages, and there's a lot of documents come out, so we need to think, it'll take a wee while, somebody a lot smarter and with more time than me will write a book about it. The new papers by Joe Blogs, and we'll be able to read the kind of concise idea of this person's version of what they've read in these documents. But just interesting that again, there's still stuff redacted, there's still questions up in the air about it. You finished sneezing? Blowing your nose. But it's just it's interesting to still after it. I think there's now a generation that the biggest event that ever happened to them would probably be 9/11. There's conspiracy theories about that. And this is kind of, a lot of people don't know it, so the kind of version of events is getting very, very muddied with it. But I still think Lee Harvey Oswald was not the shooter. I still think there's a much larger conspiracy happening, and it still goes on today. So yeah, so I don't know if you get any kind of ideas about these new papers released, Rob.
No, I think the amount of information that got released and the time that since it's been released, it'll take time for people to be able to read through it,
assimilate it,
assimilate it, and then put it in context with the stuff that is already out there, and be able to put the things in place. So I think over the next year or so, as you say, there will be some books, maybe some new movies, because JFK movies, there's a lot of money in that. A lot of the big film studios have,
I was watching, I think it was the Joe Rogan podcast. He does like a video one as well, and he was talking to a kind of ex-CIA agent about the JFK conspiracy. And there was a very kind of, I can't remember the guy's name, so I'm probably just rambling now, but the way, like, the kind of double negative answers they come across, so they kind of say, oh well, it could have been Lee Harvey Oswald, but then this happened, and the CIA agents were, yeah, that could have happened, yeah, that could have happened as well. Even though he's kind of portraying it as Lee Harvey Oswald was a madman, as a loner, crazy guy, and he did it. When it came to answering questions that kind of disproved that he possibly didn't do it, there's no real comeback, because it's not like a lot of that stuff's dismissible evidence. A lot of it's real, tangible evidence. But just off the top of my head, something like the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald went to Russia, stayed there for a few years, came back, and the first thing that happened to him was he was allowed back into the country. But somebody who lived in Russia, escaped the Stalinist and Khrushchev and the perils of that in the late 50s, early 60s, with no kind of agency ties to the KGB or whatever, would spend years in detention centres and, thoroughly checked, vetted, whereas Lee Harvey Oswald was able to come back, straight back into America with his Russian wife, even though it was felt and it was put out in the public domain that when he was in Russia he was giving secrets away. So technically he should have been done as a traitor, treason, hung straight off the plane on the tarmac, but no, he was allowed to come back in. Very strange.
That's it. That is strange. It's why we love conspiracy theories.
I think that kind of moves on. So just a wee tiny subject we can quickly discuss is this idea that, and it's becoming a bit more, because the way news is disseminated now, people like Alex Jones, these independent news organisations, a conspiracy theory, or if you're talking about conspiracy theory, then just saying it in that context makes it almost invalid, or takes some sort of kind of responsibility of truth off it. That's just a conspiracy theory. It's like, well, to assassinate Caesar, the Romans said it conspired behind his back. That's a conspiracy. That's a conspiracy. So the theory is, or if he fell in all the knives. No. The idea that, sorry, there's a dog barking there. The idea that conspiracies don't happen, or if it is a conspiracy, then it can't be true, or there's a lack of truth within it, is very strange to me. Like, to say that governments don't deal in conspiracies is crazy, because they obviously do. America has, and especially the CIA, have a very rich history of coup d'etats and assassinations and covering these things up. And if you think about it, every one of those at some level is a conspiracy. And then if you have a theory about that, it's a conspiracy theory. Even though the conspiracy theory is the truth that happened, saying, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, or you believe in conspiracies. Fuck, aye, I can believe in conspiracies because conspiracies happen all the time. The less likely theory is what's been portrayed out there.
I think it's also propagated by those in power or those with truth to get General Joe Blogs to the point where it's easier for them and beneficial to those in power to just dismiss anything which is challenging to their personal worldview or the standard worldview that's advertised and pushed via the mainstream, to just cry wolf and say conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that classic is oh, you're deep. It's like, are you shallow then? It's like it's just the easy way for somebody to dismiss it and get back to Hollyoaks, or dismiss it and get back to talking about their latest 3-piece suite, or the TV, radio, video, latest consumer item.
Yeah.
Conspiracy. It's always there. It's always been a part of every. That's the thing we've discussed in the past. Like, a game of chess is very complicated. There's a lot of options. In a game of chess, the variables are minuscule compared to a game of Go. You know, the sort of Asian, Chinese strategy game. And if you think about the amount of combinations, etc., that a game of Go has, and a game of Go takes a day, compare that to a corporate empire, or like something like the Jesuit order that have been conspiring and playing a game of chess on a global scale for 500 years. The game they're playing may be so complex that even the brightest, most strategic game player could not comprehend, because it has so many tentacles, it has so many false turns and moves that don't make sense, because you're only seeing 2 or 3 moves, but the person you're playing against has perceived your moves up to the 20 moves down the line, and they have predicted that you will do A, B, C, D, E and F, and when you hit F, then theirs will come into play and you'll be beat by G.
Yeah. Just as we were talking about conspiracies, there's a kind of stigma with that, but there's crazy things have happened in the past, and these all turn out to be the truth, technically.
Fucking crazy world,
truth,
man.
Though? It is. So that's JFK and conspiracies. We'll come back to that another time. I'll need to re-listen to our old JFK podcast and see what angle I can come at. If you've got any angles, get in touch with us, folks. Let us know what you think. And
you can get in touch with us via the Facebook, which is Facebook Everything's an Illusion podcast. You just type that in, you'll get us. Via the website, there's obviously links, everythingsanillusion.com. There's links to our YouTube, our Twitter and our Facebook, and try to answer. I think Facebook's the most active in terms of daily content and comments, etc. But answer the comments.
You can get us on www.everythingsillusion.rus. Whatever the Russian link is.
I never paid for that one.
Then who did, Rob? Who did? Dun dun dun. Russians. Cool. Shall we move on?
Catalonia.
What the fuck's going on there, man? Craziness.
It's interesting though, eh?
It's very interesting. So, as we record this podcast, there's been an arrest warrant sent out for ministers who've been chucked off the government. They're going to They've just been jailed, and so that's these revolutionaries. They must be known as now.
My understanding is obviously Spain is big, and there's always been regions. Obviously, they had the Basque Country, the Catalans, and democracy is the key power throughout the world. And democratically, I think it was like 70 or 80% voted for independence, and that was even with the Spanish government intervening and taking over a few of the electoral kind of spots, shutting them down, etc.
Yeah.
And then the Spanish government basically declared that all Catalonian kind of electoral practices were void and were basically taken over, and then the Catalonians just decided, well, we forced their hand, we're declaring ourselves independent. So the Spanish government went in and said, nope, we are Spain, you are Spain, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be interesting to hear the UK or the British government defend why Gibraltar is a part of the UK but Catalan is a part of Spain.
Well, I mean, that brings up a kind of bigger question about just we as a species, how we identify ourselves. We seem to have evolved over the past 400 years of conflict and the way the industrialisation has happened, and now the way the internet's taken over and stuff like that. We became really big. We became empires, and it was a kind of way of dealing with how we were evolving socially. And now we're kind of going back a wee bit. I think we're kind of taking a look at ourselves and go, being this big doesn't really work, especially now in this modern age. I think the way we can communicate with each other, the way stuff moves throughout the world, it moves a lot faster. We don't really need to be a big Spain. You know, people are becoming a wee bit more, even though they can look out into the world a lot bigger, I think we're becoming a wee bit within ourselves. Us in Scotland obviously have had an independence vote a couple of years ago that went the way of staying within the British Union, and it's interesting to see how other countries are dealing with it. I mean, the last kind of big conflict in Europe would have been like Yugoslavia and all that, would it no? Bosnia, and that was quite brutal and bloody. I don't think this will come at the same place, but you can see the start of how these things evolve and how they escalate from peaceful protest and people trying to go about their business to I also think it comes down to a kind of a monetary thing, as everything in this fucking stupid planet works. You know, there's obviously a financial element to Catalonia being part of Spain. You know, and that's why they want to keep it there.
Well, it'll be quite a big bit because it's Barcelona. It's I think Catalonia is like California. It's a powerhouse. You know, it's that area which does well, and I think that's one of the reasons that the folk want to step away. I think you know, the Catalans have a very much Catalonian history. They have their own language, etc, etc, etc. But as you say, like throughout history, we continuously borders change, cultures change. You know, just look with the overview of history, and you go, oh, right, aye. So, and one of the things that really cemented to me that was, I remember somebody making a racial, derogatory racial kind of thing to do with folk for the Caribbean living and working in the UK. And when you look at history, there was black folk, sort of North Africans, that came with the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So potentially, again, folk of African heritage living and working on the British Isle 1,000 years before the ancestors of the person who made the racial thing with ancestors being the kind of Scandinavian, Danish ancestors arrived. The whole thing about who you are and where you are and borders, I think it's quite interesting what's happening a lot just now with the genetic kind of kits that you can get, DNA kits, and you can buy them for £100, Ancestry.com, whatever, and people are finding, holy fuck, I'm 40% Arab, or I'm 80% Scottish, or I'm 40% this, 40% that, 40% that, and not actually realising.
It's a lot of pish. 100% human.
Aye, the whole concept of, I remember boundaries, etc. I remember one time at Speak of Scotland asking a guy, where do you come from? And he says, I was born under the sun. I was like, no shit, Sherlock, I kind of worked that one out, but where are you from? And he says, I'm of Earth. I'm a human. Born under the sun. I kept on pressing him and he wouldn't. But his argument was sound in the sense of it's irrelevant. You know what I mean? I
mean, his name was Hug Juan.
Aye.
He looked very like he was from China, but I mean that's fine.
But his point was, and as you get his point was, we're here discussing ideas. What relevance does the fact that because I have a funny accent or a bit of this?
That's an idea. That's a concept. That's an idea where the borders, where these things physically happen. But I think if you take it from a kind of point of view that we started these tribes, worked our way up. It started as group. If you look at monkeys, the way monkeys interact, these kind of tribes, these kind of groups, that's how we started. And you know, the groups got bigger and bigger and bigger, but within the big group there's all these wee groups. I think wee groups might be the way to go.
And that's
certain things like yeah, I agree we're all of this earth, but you know, there is kind of borders, like physical borders that can be put up and seen. It's a very interesting, especially with Spain being such a big place. I do apologise for that dog barking. I'm dog sitting, so and he's a dick, so that's why he's barking, making me lose my train of thought.
Well, see when you're saying about like we come from like chimps, etc., etc. That one of the things that's put forward in that book, Homo sapien, is that basically the chimp, or the head of the
ancestor
ape,
of the chimp,
they could only control groups up to like 30, 40, and then it got too big. That's as big as their troops go. But be it we ate some magic mushrooms and created language or symbols to create language, we created symbols and language to understand the crazy symbols and fucking new things that were flowing through our minds, and through that we then created stories, and stories was the thing which allowed us to identify in groups bigger than 50, i.e. you go anywhere in the world and you're a Catholic, you can instantly identify with somebody else who's a Catholic. If you go anywhere in the world and you're an Ayr supporter, you can instantly identify with another Ayr supporter. If you go anywhere in the world and you say I'm Scottish, it's a story. It defines. You could be of any race, of any age, whatever, but you're in the deepest, darkest Russia and you meet another Scot, you're like, oh fucking, you identify with each other. It's the story which brings you. And Catalan are fighting for their story within a story, essentially, and so was Scotland and any other national independence kind of thing. But I do agree what you were saying, or seem to be saying, about in a modern age with technology, etc., it is a lot easier to manage and self-manage smaller groups now because of technology, and we have kind of fantastic opportunity to, if you like, almost federalise and make small governing bodies throughout the various countries to bring things more local, to give local people power, decision making power, etc. Because like one of the bigger problems with the UK is, and one of the major reasons for a lot of independence kind of ideology, is the fact that London is so big, powerful, and in fact London's so different from not just Scotland, but it's so different from the rest of England. You know, it is. It sucks up. It gets all the money for new transportation links. It gets all the money for this. It's where people invest. It's and there's no wonder people in Manchester, Liverpool, and Newcastle, and Bristol, and all these other places are always shouting for. We want some investment. We want some. Never mind, Scotland away up in the north, or it's London versus the rest of England. It's London versus the rest of the UK. But people all over the world identify with the story of London.
Yeah, I think it's quite. I think that's kind of what I was saying. I think the idea that the borders are still technically there, but the way information and the way goods can be passed, we don't need the borders. Like, we could all be the Star Trek universe where there's no borders and everybody's fucking lovely. But if that part of the world has lots of, say, farmland, and the part in the bottom has lots of industry, you know, it's the movement of the goods, whereas but it's easier to, like, the farm people manage the farm and they know how to manage farm because that's all they do, and the people down there do whatever the fuck they do. So there's these natural borders of cultural and kind of physical workspaces. I think that's, like, for me, you go, as you say, go down by Newcastle, Manchester, it is a different country, it's a different way of living. But I'm all for fucking no borders and everybody being fucking chilled. That's what I'm after, just chill the fuck out, everybody. Well,
that's it. Like a lot of, like, can you get gangs and people, like, you just take, like, big New York kind of stuff, because you see that on the movies and stuff, where people, it's like, 4 blocks that way and 2 blocks that way, that's your territory, and we don't leave this area because we are the Crips, or we're the, I don't know, whatever the names of the gangs are, but the idea is, like, they identify and they've created these fictitious boundaries, but they're real because you give them the power, and you see these kind of gang rehabilitation kind of thing. The guy has a wane, he decides to get the tattoos lasered off his face, he grows up a bit and realises, you know what, that's no what life's about, and he walks past and would say something like, you know, this used to be the boundary and I could never go past here, and the whole concepts of, say, Catalan being Catalonian and Scotland being Scotland, the historic stories that people identify with culturally, I suppose a lot of it, there is that, but then there's the other side of it, of, as you say, people wanting to progress into the future and saying,
but also, like, there's a
it's easier to manage at a smaller facility than it is a big facility.
I also think there's a perception of fairness that if you think, as a few people may think in Scotland is that the way the four kingdoms are run as one is an unequal partnership and unfair. What would be fair is if Scotland itself managed its own affairs and was very, very friendly with everyone around it. That seems a very plausible idea and a good way of thinking. I think the same in Catalonia. Catalonia, I think, well, being part of this big thing where, even though we've got this history and this story that we want to preserve, it's unfair to the way our affairs are being managed, and we feel it'd be fairer and we'd be happier doing it ourselves. And that's a kind of idea of, I know it's in the American Constitution, this idea of happiness, you know, a pursuit of happiness. You know, life is very short on this spinning rock, this flat earth. And we need to, you know, if that's what makes people happy, a kind of desire and destination that they see themselves and their communities. I mean, because the argument against that is like, well, how come you don't just make your own house? Your own wee country. Well, then I'd have to be my own policeman, my own fireman. You know, there is a wider enjoyment of being part of a community. I think we're going back to the idea of the study of apes. As you say, they get to a certain point and then they split up because it's too big a management for the alpha male ape to look over. You know what I mean? Control it. As you say, we've developed
a mechanism
in our brain, a mechanism to cope with
make it
being
bigger
than that.
Yeah.
But maybe being a bit smaller is the best way. But yeah, Catalonia is very interesting. It'd be very interesting to see how that affects the rest of Europe. It'd be very interesting to see how it escalates. Because I don't know if you know this, Rob, but recent history, Spain had quite the tete-a-tete in the 30s with itself.
No, for sure. No, I mean, it's very interesting to see what happens in Spain, because Spain is, again, its politics, I say, is far right, and then in recent days it is still right, but it's progressively coming up with some crazy left ideas as well. So
yeah, I think the kind of economic collapse affected Spain as one of the bigger countries quite badly.
Oh, it was huge, yeah.
To say maybe like France, Germany, even us in the UK. I think Spain didn't do that well, and whereas a prosperous region like Catalonia might have, as if it'd been itself, you know, I'm not saying it would neglect its other citizens of the bigger Spain, but it might feel like, well, we're taking the slack here. What's going on?
And
they've been held back by being part of that mechanism.
It's one of the kind of similar arguments that both Texas and California have made. You know, I mean,
well, again, when was the last state? I don't know off the top of my head. I think the last state was maybe Hawaii or Alaska. I mean, they've only been part of America, what, 100 years? You know, these ideas.
Puerto Rico.
No, I think it's not technically a state, but it's part of. There's a few islands
like
and stuff
Guam
like that.
And shit.
Yeah, they're not technically states, but they come under the governance of the American government or something like that. It's like places like Gibraltar and Channel Islands and all that stuff. And what's the one off Argentina? Faroe Islands.
So until they get wiped out by a
hurricane or something like that.
The Faroe Islands, is that no north of us and between us and Iceland? It's the
Falkland Islands, sorry. So I mean, and again, if you think of something like the Falkland Islands, which is a tiny wee island down by Argentina, that the British have controlled for, I don't know, say 200 years, just for sake of argument. There's a big argument, and obviously we had the conflict in the war in 1982 with Argentina, because they wanted it to be part of Argentina. But Argentina, as the idea of a whole country that it is like 150 years old. So technically that wee bit of the British Empire has been there longer than the concept of a Argentina. You know, if you keep going back far enough, that's where you can think these things through a wee bit. So yeah, I mean, for me, the idea of a United States is in itself, these states unite to be this one thing. Well, they could be their own wee things. I mean, the majority of these states, I would think, were much bigger than most countries in Europe. You know, Luxembourg, fucking Andorra. These are tiny, almost principalities from a medieval time. That's still Switzerland. I'm sure Texas is much bigger than Switzerland. Why can't it be its own country if it wants to be?
28 United Kingdoms in Texas.
Yeah.
And there's a big movement in Texas because I guess the federal government don't own the land in Texas. The Texans actually own the land. It's different from every other state in that respect, and there's some sort of really interesting things with Texas compared to the other states. The Lone Star State, they've always had a very independent kind of. But I don't really know much about their
history
and constitution and again federalism and the way that they implement it.
Yeah.
So there we go for Catalan solved.
I think we've sorted that out, yeah.
And we'll move straight to TR3Bs. No.
TR3Bs.
And that's obviously in the show notes, and you can check out. But TR3Bs is the sort of triangular UFO that's very, very popularly seen in a lot of movies and YouTube videos, and again even posters and stuff for things like the.
Yeah.
What's your next short film called?
It's called Postcard from the Apocalypse.
Oh, nice.
There's a Facebook page if you want to. It's based on a story by two handsome young men.
And
one with a beard, one with an intermediate beard.
And in that there's some kind of ideas about UFOs, and I remember one of the graphics being of the TR3B as being the UFO.
The TR3Bs, let's be honest, Rob, technically don't exist. You know, there's no official, we are making these anti-gravity spacecrafts, but they're that kind of triangle shape. The more that kind of seeps out through the internet, and the more people, there's quite a lot of information about them out there, but they seem to be that kind of that triangular UFO shape. It reminds me of the stealth bombers.
Yep.
When, before the Iraq War, the first one, the Kuwaiti oil Saddam Hussein one, so that'd be like late 80s. There was several American bases in Europe, so like we had a couple. I think like over Belgium there's like loads of these reports of these weird flying UFOs that were very silent in the sky, made weird noises and had flashing lights. And for 2 or 3 years all these reports would come out, all these weird UFOs. Come the Iraq War, we send in the stealth bombers, the anti-radar spacecraft, and they're these triangular shapes. And then it comes out that they've been test flying over these bases in Europe. So in the military have a great history of debunking stuff and false flagging stuff. We'll not get into Roswell now, but that could be seen as one. The idea that you don't see anything, and if stuff comes out and people assume or take into account that this is something we've never seen before, it could be aliens, they run with that and they'll self-propagate misinformation towards those ideas. The governments are really good at that, and these TR3Bs, sorry I just banged my desk, TR3Bs, anti-gravity spacecraft, possibly 5-10 years ago being tested, looked like alien spacecraft, now are almost coming out into the mainstream. Are these the next generation of fighter jets or reconnaissance planes that we'll be using? The interesting thing is, where did we get the technology from, Rob? Did we make it ourselves, or did we get it from somewhere else?
Well, this is the thing which I think is really interesting, is the sense of general Joe Blogs, myself included, is very, very ignorant of the pace of science. Now, if you think about a logarithmic curve, you know, something going 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36. And the gap's getting bigger and bigger, so 7, 49, 8, 64, 9, 81, 10, 100. It's getting big fast. Adding in this kind of the pace at which technology is moving is going exponentially. It's moving at such a pace that we are no longer, as I say, when it was Arthur C. Clarke that said, when technology becomes indistinguishable from magic. And we are now at that point where obviously everybody sees the progress and the speed of, say, mobile telephones, you know, going from 10 years ago being a thing which could make a phone call, to today being as powerful as your laptop, as powerful as your compact camera, as powerful as any software that you run on your laptop. The ability,
as powerful as the Apollo missions?
Oh no, your fucking shitty Casio watch was as powerful as that. 64 kilobyte. But what I'm getting at is we're so ignorant of what's at the forefront of today's science that if we were to kind of acknowledge or can watch some crazy documentaries about what they're actually doing, we would think it was completely sci-fi. And when there's loads of podcasts out there, obviously a lot of people probably think this is the only podcast in the world because it's so fucking awesome. But
well, to be fair, we should say right now there are other podcasts available.
Yeah.
If you must.
There's a lot of good science podcasts where they're asking loads of questions about quantum physics and quantum particles and all this kind of good stuff. And one of the kind of key concepts that they came up with in quantum kind of stuff is the whole idea of the observer affects the experiment.
Yeah.
And I watched a video recently where the guy says he was a yogi, and he says like a light, or just to take a light bulb, he says a light bulb illuminates the room and allows you to see all the nooks and crannies within the room. He says, but a light bulb can't use its own light to view the source of the light. It creates this brilliance at the middle, but it can't use itself. It can illuminate the rest of the room. And he says that's like your mind. You can use your mind to illuminate the rest of your mind, and to see how you think, and what makes you fearful, and what makes you love, and what makes you create. But you can't observe the thing which you're using to think about love, and think about this, and think about that script, and you can't actually observe the essence of it. You can't use the light to illuminate the light. So their kind of thing was, you just need to switch the light off and sit in the dark, because you need to, if you like, enter the nothing. And that's, to observe yourself, you need to switch off and enter the nothing. And almost the exact same as what quantum physics are saying when they say, for us to observe and do experiments in the quantum world, we cannot observe. We must enter the nothing. We must do the test blind.
Yeah.
So they're coming to similar conclusions about the nature of reality, and how the mind is an influencer at every level, but the mind is not actually, potentially is not actually encased within, as we were saying about borders and Catalan, maybe a fake construct or a story that we are. The border of Rob stops at the physical body. The border of Rob might actually be infinite. It's just just like I've chose to identify as Scottish and not as some other kind of fictitious borderline. I've identified as Rob, but in fact I'm actually everything.
And nothing.
Well, I'm everything, but you can't actually experience the nothing. Because as soon as you enter the nothing, you have nothing to experience that thing which you're trying to experience, which is nothing. You can't actually identify ego. As soon as somebody says, I have no ego, well, you've just used your conscious mind to identify the ego, therefore you're using your ego, so you still have ego. It's like in Zen they say, who is the kind of great being or the master that makes the grass green? And the answer is, it's me. I'm the person that makes the grass green. Because and you're the person that creates your entire reality. You're the creator. But so get
triangular UFOs took a turn there.
So getting to the TR3B, I suppose the idea then behind that is, if you're thinking about where the forefronts of physics are going, the fact that observational experiments and the fact that they're now experimenting with isolating atoms and particles of atoms, and the fact that you can transmit and translate and have an item like Schrodinger's cat. It's the cat is alive, the cat is dead, the cat is alive and dead at the same time. There's many different states and can appear to be in our space-time and somewhere else at the same time. It can appear to be at location A and location B at the same time and not at the same time. So in them attempting to get that kind of physics and understand that it's actually interlinked with the mind, somehow may have created prototypes for the TR3B, which allows them to jump in and out of what we would qualify as space-time, and use that kind of quantum theory into actual real engineered projects. Because at the end of the day, physics is just the kind of ideas. Engineering's the actual making the ideas, putting them into practice, making the kind of crazy concepts of quantum bullshit into, we can do this.
Cool.
It's a fucking weird one, man.
But I mean, the kind of idea that these spacecrafts can fly up into space and stuff like that, a lot of that I think's just people projecting onto them. If these things do exist and the military are testing them, that'd be quite cool.
Well, that's it's that sort of if you could travel in space, surely you would travel. It wouldn't be in a physical kind of vehicle, it would be via your mind, some sort of like the astral projection kind of Stargate kind of technology where they project the mind out again. And then when you think about things like hallucinogens, entheogens, and people's experiences of taking some crazy ass psychoactive drugs, entering into another dimension where they go beyond their five senses, they meet an entity or a series of entities which seem to be, just like tuning into channel 1, always seem to be there if you take that particular drug. And then through years of that culture, they develop ways to interact with the beings or the whatever, and then have a totally different perspective on the nature of reality.
Yeah.
Yet in our modern day society, it's kind of strange, because it's the building block of every major culture, religion, language is psychoactive drugs. But in today's modern society, they're totally frowned upon.
Yeah.
I definitely think that there's American pilots that are hot-wired up to LSD, flying crazy fucking tech from Skunk Works and fucking various other big like fucking Boeing or whoever's making these high-tech planes. And it's like fucking Starship Troopers to the max, man.
Yeah, cool. As long as there's no the big bugs kicking about, you're alright.
Of course there is.
Damn. Oh well. Will we move on to some another topic that the podcast listeners might want to?
The finest programme has returned.
Well, I'm concerned about talking about the finest programme because
you've
I think this is
lost your way.
This is just a cheap shot to call me out on the fact that I haven't watched any of the new Star Trek on the streaming services that are available to me.
It's a poor show, Greg.
It is a poor show.
At one point, you or I could have called you a Trekkie, but I'm struggling with that at the minute. It's
I think my honorary doctorate in Treksdom might be revoked, and I'll have to go and watch Babylon 5 for the rest of my life.
Hey, that's a high quality programme.
Just to be fair, I was speaking to a friend for work. He was talking about how good Babylon 5 was, and I reminded him, as I'll remind you and I'll remind all the listeners, Babylon 5 was terrible. Just really, really bad.
Shite. Amazing graphics.
But if you want to talk about the new Trek, Rob, I'm quite happy to listen to. But obviously, it'll need to be spoiler free.
So,
just talk about some of the kind of overriding theories.
So, the new Star Trek, for me, is really good because, well, it's better than Enterprise, that last fucking pile of shite that they brought out.
We've come a long way.
It's good because one of the things that's highlighting, without any spoilers, is the kind of thin line between the Federation being a explorer race or explorer peoples that have the Prime Directive, etc., and the fact that they're obviously have a very militaristic part of the Federation or the culture. You know, they have photonic torpedoes and X and X military capabilities, and there is enemies out there, or people they come against. So it's asking that question again between the Federation as the explorer and the Federation as a military power, and it's asking a lot of questions around that, which is quite good, because there's a lot of episodes that they don't really justify it's like, oh, we're explorers, but oh look, we just created the Defiant and the battle station, and we're fucking blowing the shit out of fucking everything and anything, but they never really go into the grey bit, to explain or explore. So I think that's what the whole purpose of this season is about.
I heard it's going to be like different things every season. It's not going to be like the one thing. I don't know if that's true or not.
It might be, but in this one season, it seems to be that seems to be the key theme. Obviously, there's loads of things happening in it. I'm not going to say them because there's one key kind of thing which is happening, which if I was to say it, you'd be like, oh, and you'd probably spoil it for a few people if it's true, if it's real, if it's well, I think it is. You know, it's a big it's a big thing which staring you right in the face, and if you're a fan of Star Trek, you probably see it, but not actually seen it. But when you see it and when they reveal it, you'll be like, right, that's fucking obvious as fuck.
Yeah.
But because it's all to do with stuff for the original series.
I get the feeling there might be a split timeline somewhere.
No split timeline.
Okay, that's fine.
I could tell you what I think it is.
See, to be fair, I've been thinking about this lately, and the whole idea of spoilers.
Oh, aye.
And she's like, just, oh, that's a spoiler. Don't watch this review, there's spoilers in it. Don't watch the new trailer, there's a big spoiler in it. Fuck, who gives a fuck?
Alright, I like it. Like, let's go for this. I've got to blow your balls
new,
off then.
Like the new, the Last Jedi's coming out, right? So there was trailer came out today. It was just a 45-second clip, a couple of new clips. Then folks spend hours going, oh, let's talk about it, let's not spoil stuff. Fucking just tell me who Snook is. I don't give a fuck. Just tell me. I'm still going to go and see it. You're never going to be able to comprehend the entire 2-hour film into 2 minutes.
Who is Snook?
So in general, or who is he? So in the thing, he was, remember the big projection guy and Kylo Ren. So allegedly he was like a kind of
mega Jedi that could bring people back from the dead.
Yeah, but he was kind of in a cryostasis or some piss like that during the last few wars. I don't know. It's just a lot of theories, but yeah. I'm becoming less and less averse to major spoilers. Okay,
so here's the spoiler of...
Right, let's like people out there who haven't watched Star Trek Discovery or are on their way through Star Trek Discovery.
Do you want to hear it?
Don't want to hear these spoilers. Just skip on a few minutes.
But you don't care about spoilers, so...
No, I don't give a fuck. Just tell me. I'm going to watch it anyway.
So this is just an idea. Now,
so this is your theory.
It's a popular thing in the original series was they would, not popular, but we've seen it, was a Klingon that was genetically altered to be human.
Yeah, they touched on that when Worf went back to the Trouble with Tribbles. Remember that Deep Space Nine episode? And it's an idea that they tried to genetically modify themselves to be like Khan and Bashir. Remember they were genetically modified people? Yeah.
So there's a key character in the new episodes which kind of fits with the idea that he is a genetically modified Klingon. He's all the kind of qualities.
So he looks like the kind of...
No, he just looks like a human, but he's tall.
Just with the eyebrows and all that?
No, he's tall, he's strong, he's loyal. He's a great warrior. He was came from a Klingon prison where he was there for a long time. He had a special relationship with the mistress or the leader of the Klingon prison vessel, who was a powerful female Klingon kind of a family member. And there's various things that when you kind of like you could gloss over, like he says, why were you in prison so long? And it was she had a thing for me. It's like, oh, the captain just accepts that, you know. It's like you never hit.
So is your theory that somebody within Starfleet is technically a kind of
the Federation has been infiltrated.
That's how they find out about it.
It's been infiltrated by a Klingon, but this isn't. I think it will be revealed later on. That would make sense for the story arc, but it fits completely with the past and this kind of idea of, you know, because they're just introducing cloaking technology. They're just it's all about kind of new science and being deceived. There's a lot of that kind of stuff with the kind of military kind of stuff, and it's been entered before in Star Trek, and it's a classic kind of that this guy who seems to be getting a lot of privilege and power and trust is actually the person that's going to bring them down. A Judas kind of character. He's a Klingon.
Yeah. Well, I definitely will be watching it. But yeah, I can see. So this takes place between Enterprise and original series, or is it between original series and Next Gen?
I think it's original and Next Gen.
Well, the Federation should really know about genetically modified Klingons and stuff at that point.
Oh no, for sure. And then, but if
yeah, but maybe there's still
if he gets beamed from A to B, they should be able to tell. But like anything, you know, there's always an extra way to disguise something or cloak something or.
Cool. I promise I will watch it and I'll join in the conversation.
I personally, I get excited for Mondays now.
Yeah,
it's the best programme I'm watching at the minute.
I'm working my way through Stranger Things as well.
Pish.
Second season. I remember the first season being a bit scary. This seems to be a bit more like they really ramped up the
production
80s, the kind of 80s-ness of it. Like, you know, basically a couple of times you could have turned to the camera and winked and went, "Remember that bit in Goonies? Remember? Here's a bit like it. Yeah, you remember." Right, then move on. You know, they could break the fourth wall and almost say, "This is a reference to The Thing. Remember The Thing for the 80s? It was a good one." Right, back to the story. They've ramped it up a wee bit more, I think. But it's still quite good. But Star Trek is on my list of things to watch, Rob. And it sounds cool.
Actually quite
and
disappointed
in
what you just said there and how you came across there. It was like, kind of watch Star Trek because I'm watching this shitty replicant 80s pish, and Star Trek is on my list. It is, I promise you. It's like, sort of Trek fan are you?
You know, I've
lost your way.
I think you should
rejoin the air Trek.
I need to be brought back to some sort of re-education. We need to start some sort of Ayrshire Trek thing.
You need to start a fucking Star Trek club at the university.
Oh, that'd be class.
Lunchtime Star Trek club.
Lunchtime Star Trek club. Me.
You could even get
5 other cool guys.
VHS cassettes just for the nostalgia.
Well, that's the thing now. I mean, TNG's on Netflix, isn't it? So I think you could just stream it HD. Brilliant.
I've been watching the horror channel has Voyager.
Yeah.
So I watch that every day.
Trying to quickly skip by the first 3 seasons.
Oh, it's on season 6 at the minute, so.
Ah, yeah, that's alright then. It's quite good. It's amazing how that lasted. Because the first 2 or 3 seasons are just struggle.
It's quality.
Then 7 and 9 turns up. To be honest, that helps.
That is quality.
That does help. Cool, man.
So last but
you had one last thing to
last but not least, just a quick kind of what happens when you die, and the reason for the question of what happens when you die is that I took a week off work there to do some writing, and that's kind of one of the main questions or themes that I wrote about during the week, about the whole idea of what happens when you die. And I just again, going with a classic, you're in a car crash and you're a Buddhist, you see Buddha. If you're a Christian, you see Jesus, and if you're a Muslim, you see again Muhammad. And it's this kind of idea that possibly the cultural ideology that you've adopted will shape because just say that death is a last minute firing of your mind until it shuts off. Because when you die, it's a fact that your mind fires one last time to like, again, but it doesn't just fire like the whole thing just lights up. So maybe in that last bit, it can on full processing power, it basically puts forward the cultural thing that you have identified with, be it just say Buddha, and you get this big fucking amazing projection of you with the Buddha and all its glory before you kind of fade into the darkness, or you with Jesus, or whatever your cultural, whatever your programming dictates. Or that when you die, your programming is irrelevant and you transcend the kind of physical world and the programming that you got when you were here, and you genuinely move into some other kind of timeless kind of place which you have been before, and re-thingweed with your people, be it like again Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Odo, and the whole idea of his people when they kind of liquefied into each other. You know, that kind of moving to a space and time kind of place where you just you re-enter the hive, if you like. You just mingle in with the next kind of, you realise you're part in the wholeness, that you are everything, and your cultural experience on Earth was kind of just amalgamated into the big software before you're sent back for another trip on one of the many millions of planets in the universe. Just two ideas of the.
I think there's been kind of studies showing that if you were technically declared dead, as we would say, there is still electrical impulses going through your body, and then obviously the mind is controlled by these electrical impulses. So you could theorise that once you are technically dead, that the mind is still in some way active, deep in its core, or in a peripheral vision, or a peripheral level. We also take into account the fact that time is a construct that we observe in our own perceived way, but as we know, time can be manipulated. You can bend space-time, so time, seconds, minutes are just something we've constructed. So, as you say, that last energy pulse within the brain's synapses could well feel like forever, feel like 5 minutes, feel like an hour, because at that point your perception of time and how you are relevant to it is on a different level. I think the idea that you would see these cultural references only comes back to you if you have technically died but have been able to come back. You know, when people say I saw the white light and all that sort of stuff, that gives a perception that there is something else there, but what that person has actually seen is just that burst of synapses. They've told you you're technically dead, but your brain was still active at a very internal way that we still don't understand, and then you come back for that, you're brought back to life, and you say, oh fuck, it was brilliant, I was with Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker in a spaceship in the sky, it was lovely. And that's a kind of another thing that reinforces the idea of cultural religious indoctrination, perception. As you say, that consciousness could then totally fade away if you're unable to come back to life, and your body stops doing what your body does. Your brain finally stops firing off all these things, and you either go up into this cultural matrix in the universe, or you just die and compose and go back into the earth and become part of the atoms that we are.
Well, that's it. And I've been asking these kind of questions, and like one of my main characters, he is indoctrinated to think that there's A, B, C and D happens, and then they kill him, and then A, B, C and D does happen, but when he comes back, because he survives, he's starting to question, well, I did see A, B, C and D, and I've said that to them, and now they think that I'm with them, and the fact of that is the way things are. But he starts to question about why did it happen as A, B, C and D. Is it because that's what he had been led to, and that's what his culture had told him was going to happen? So there only was, in his mind, potentially there only was that option to happen, but as he travels he sees that there's other ways, so now he's curious to see if he had another near death or death experience, would it be as simple as it has to be A, B, C and D, because now he has loads of other ideas that would maybe influence and change the simplicity they had when he was young and he died and came back, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't want it to make sense at this point. I want to read the whole finished manuscript to make it make sense to me.
Oh well,
so that's on you. To get it
it's close to that. I'm at 70,000+ words, with about 40,000 edited. So it's.
You don't need to show off to Israel that you know 70,000 words. I know at least 80 words.
Oh no, that it only is about 100 words. I just repeated a lot.
Just repeat them
I repeated thousands of times.
Yeah, and two of them are fuck.
There is that word is used a lot. But that's the.
But yeah, I'd like to hear what the people out there in podcast land think. The church folks, let us know.
Obviously, if you come from a kind of hardcore Christian, Muslim, Jew, Taoist, Sikh, or any other, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, Jehovah's Witness, whatever your religious background, you'll have a very defined answer, and it's the same way. Again, if you're a agnostic or a atheist or humanist or whatever, you have a very defined answer. But I just think it's that thing that no one can know.
Yeah.
But yet, so many people claim to have intimate knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a great question for a fantasy.
Great question for the ages.
For a fantasy book. So.
Yeah, cool.
And
what's the name of the book?
It's called Illusion. It'll hopefully be out in 2018. And it's all about
illusion.
The illusion, I suppose. Everything's an Illusion podcast. The book, set in a fantasy world, asks a lot of questions about life, death, and the nature of reality. But set in a kind of Conan the Barbarian style world with loads of awesome action.
Can't wait.
I hope there's no account out there just fucking heard that went.
I could well finish.
I could write a good wee story like that. Well, no, but till 2018, I could bash that out in 3 weeks.
Goes on to become a blockbuster, #1 bestseller, and film rights with Jim Cameron.
15 years, man. Right, Joe, on that high quality note of qualityness,
yes,
we have Greg Andrew, producer, director, new film coming out. Keep an eye on Greg's channels, because it's coming out soon. Yeah, soon.
Yes, well, we hope.
For Christmas.
Oh fuck, no chance.
It's coming out soon.
I like your optimism there.
So hopefully into the new year then.
Yeah.
Into the new year, great new film. I'm selling a book. It'll be out for Christmas. It is out for Christmas. Smartphone Media Production. I'll be doing a deal closer to the time, so people should buy that for everybody and anybody they know who has a phone. Aye.
It's what Jesus would have wanted.
Exactly. You know, I mean, if Jesus had a phone, he would have a copy of Smartphone Media Production. It's just, again, because at the end of the day, we'd want to be selling his ideas, and that's what the book's all about. Showing you how to use.
You can't just be curing lepers and turning over tables and money these days. That's old school.
You've got to film it. That's what you've got to do nowadays. You've got to make kind of live broadcasts, Facebook live broadcasts, branded, you know, and be showing the healing. You know what I mean?
Try and go viral. Him and get Peter or Paul or John or James or Thomas or Simon or one of them to film it. Don't Judas, because he's a crafty bugger. You don't know what he's up to.
I mean, you need to be sitting there explaining that you can sell your daughter into slavery. You know what I mean? Just do this, but remember, no a neighbouring nation, or you can have sex with angels. But see, Jesus would be a great publicist if he had his memories phone. There'd probably be religious people going.
Yeah, as we quickly lose our
boycotting my book.
Yeah, that's it. The film boycotted the website.
But at the end of the day, if you're a Christian, at the end of the day,
I can fill your boots. Not today,
you need a copy of the book because it's going to help you push your ideas. You know what I mean? It's going to help you get them out there. And because you're a Christian, you obviously don't have any money, because money is the root of all evil. Therefore, you probably just have a phone, so you just need knowledge. And therefore a copy of the book will do you well. It's kind of funny, money is the root of all evil. It's some sort of like, I don't know if it's an actual teaching from the Bible, but it's kind of... It sounds like
a kind of 4th century priesty kind of thing.
But it's definitely something
St. Augustine would come up with.
I've heard a lot of Christian folk say, it's this idea of... But yet, if you go to church, they always ask for money.
Yeah. That roof's always leaking at church. That roof is always leaking.
It is, especially when you go to a fucking... I went to one recently and it was... there was about 20 folk. I felt young. You know what I mean? Like, fucking hell, average age was about 75. Like, fucking hell.
To be fair, the closer you get to death, the need for a creator grows greater, I think.
Oh no, that's always the way, innit? The prayer and that's the nature of that uncertainty of the human mind, and that's one of the major reasons for that kind of question, what happens when you die, because nobody knows, and people are confident when they're our age, and as you say, they get older, they start to doubt things, or life's experience paints a different picture. And on that
bombshell,
until the next time,
see you later.
Everything is an Illusion podcast is brought to you by Smartphone Media Production, the book. Use the power of your smartphone to create media for your business, project or group. Smartphone Media Production will show you how to plan, capture, edit, distribute and track your visions, all from your phone. The book includes cheat guides, best apps, worked examples and more. Get it at smartphonemediaproduction.com. And The Energetic Mind. Inspirational, thought-provoking images on t-shirts, canvases and more at theenergeticmind.com. Thank you, and remember, always question everything.